Okay, so hello everyone. Today is what is today? Wednesday,
The
November
20th.
the 29th, and we are continuing in our study of A Course in Miracles. We are in chapter 3, The Innocent Perception, still section 4, Error and the Ego, and we're going to be adventurous and look at paragraph number 6, which seems like it's going to be a doozy.
You got
Yeah, it
that
looks
right.
deep. This one looks deep, it does.
Yep.
But I've been gleaning a lot of information, and it's what we have been doing so far. It's helping me understand my life better. It's helping me change my life. It's helping me to grow. So it's
And that
it's
and
working for
that
me.
that's all good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'll begin in prayer if you don't mind closing us out in prayer.
Don't mind at all.
Okay. So let's just settle back for a moment and align ourselves in source. Let our hearts and our minds be seated at our altar, knowing that there is only one source, one essence. This source and this essence is all that there is. And in this completion, in this allness where all potential lies, all benefit lies, all prosperity, all abundance, all health, all forms of divinity. We just know that we are in its proper place and our proper time. We allow ourselves to be filled with this source. We allow
Oh,
ourselves to grow, to benefit, and to prosper within it. And as we continue in our study of in A Course in Miracles, we're going to glean knowledge and understanding. And we allow ourselves to be filled with this knowledge and with this understanding. And as well as we continue in this place, in this space, in this time, we are so grateful for this opportunity just to share what we are finding out, what we are knowing, what we are learning, and how we grow, not only with ourselves and our family and our friends, but with everyone that we encounter, whether it's through conversation, whether it's through a smile, whether it's just through our vibrations that we raise higher and higher and higher within ourselves, so that wherever we are, creation is. And we release this knowing, this wholeness, this omnipotence, this omnipresence, and this omniscience. We release that throughout our hearts, our minds, our bodies, through our environment, through our nation, and in this world. And with that, we say, and so it is. Okay, Harriet, would you like to begin reading?
yes, I can. Hello, everyone. Um, as has already been stated, we are still in chapter 3, rather, the innocent perception, and we're in section 4, error and the ego. Today, we will be looking at deep diving into paragraph 6, which reads as follows: the ability to perceive made the body possible because you must perceive something and with something. That is why perception involves an exchange or translation, which knowledge does not need. The interpretive function of perception, a distorted form of creation, then permits you to interpret the body as yourself in an attempt to escape from the conflict you have induced. Spirit, which knows, could not be reconciled with this loss of power because it is incapable of darkness. This makes spirit almost inaccessible to the mind and entirely inaccessible to the body. Thereafter, spirit is perceived as a threat because light abolishes darkness merely by showing you it is not there. Truth will always overcome error in this way. This cannot be an active process of correction because, as I have already emphasized, knowledge does not do anything. It can be perceived as an attacker, but it cannot attack. What you perceive as its attack is your own vague recognition that knowledge can always be remembered, never having been destroyed. Wow, yeah, you're right. This is a very heavy discussion today.
Yeah, because I don't even know what that said.
So we're gonna get through this together.
Thank you.
We're gonna get through this together, and we are going to learn something. What it is, we'll find out. Trying to keep it positive. The ability to receive, the ability to perceive made the body possible because you must perceive something, and with something.
Yeah. Yeah, starting off with that.
And
the ability to perceive made the body possible. That I get.
Yep.
Because when we're thinking about perception is something that you use your senses with. You know, you use your senses to perceive.
Right.
So so as long as we are perceiving manifestation in the form of head, arms, torso, legs, feet, hands, we're seeing that it's possible because, and then it says, because you must perceive something and with something. Well, yay, Rich is coming in.
Oh, maybe he can help us with this. Maybe he has a better understanding
of
these
words.
Right.
What are these words?
What's happening? What's going on?
Thank you. You came in at the right time.
We're so glad you came in at the right time. We don't understand these words.
All right, let's see what we're working with.
First one. So Harriet, why don't you read the paragraph again? I think I need it anyway.
Okay. All right. Okay. The ability to perceive made the body possible because you must perceive something and with something. That is why perception involves an exchange or translation, which knowledge does not need. The interpretive function of perception, a distorted form of creation, then permits you to interpret the body as yourself in an attempt to escape from the conflict you have induced. Spirit, which knows, could not be reconciled with this loss of power because it is incapable of darkness. This makes spirit almost inaccessible to the mind and entirely inaccessible to the body. Thereafter, spirit is permitted spirit is perceived as a threat because light abolishes darkness merely by showing you it's not there. Truth will always overcome error in this way. This cannot be an active process of correction because, as I have already emphasized, knowledge does not do anything. It can be perceived as an attacker, but it cannot attack. What you perceive as its attack is your own vague recognition that knowledge can always be remembered, never having been destroyed. And what we were mulling over, Richard, is that first sentence: the ability to perceive made the body possible because you must perceive something and with something. And we were kind of befuddled, I guess is the best word I can use, at what that is trying to tell us. Do you have
Gotcha.
any thoughts on it?
Yeah. So what I'm thinking is that, like we talk about, perception,
Mhm.
alongside consciousness, right? So when I see this, it makes me think that understanding that we have a body is
Mhm.
we can only understand it because of our consciousness, because of our
Okay.
ability to perceive.
Right.
Okay.
So we're perceiving our body with, we oftentimes think we're perceiving it with our eyes, but we're really perceiving it with our consciousness,
Okay. That makes sense.
right? Okay.
Mhm. See, you came in at the right time. Because
Mm.
because this makes sense. I mean, the ability to perceive made the body possible because you must perceive something and with something. So we're perceiving the body with our bodies,
Right. Exactly.
Oh.
and so and all of that is manifestation.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like whatever it is, like that's the interesting thing, is that when we realize that we aren't this body,
Right.
which I think I want, I'm gonna stop there because actually there's a line down here that actually gets into that. So, but yeah, I that's exactly what I was thinking.
Hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah. Because you must perceive something and with something.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah. You have to perceive something. You must perceive something and with
Mhm.
something. Yeah. After you read it, like 20 times, then it makes sense.
It begins
Right.
to make sense. Yeah.
Along with
Yeah.
Richard's explanation. So thank you.
Right. Yes.
Okay. Sentence number 2. That is why perception involves an exchange or translation which knowledge does not need. Yeah. See,
Yeah.
perception needs translation because when we perceive something, we are perceiving it based on what we, from our senses.
Right.
From our
And
consciousness or what our eyes, our
yeah,
physical eyes see,
yeah,
or yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
and that's very judgmental. For and not in a negative way, but if you have to judge distance, you know, you have to so those things you have to be able to realize. I mean, because you can't drive into traffic if you can't judge the difference between how fast, what the speed of the car is, or that type of thing.
Right. And
So
I'll give you a different example.
mhm,
Like the whole idea of perception is that if you get into an argument with somebody, if you're only reacting off of what's happening in front of you, then it's like tunnel vision. Like you can only
Mm-hmm.
see that. That's perception. And you
mhm.
come to that perception because you're interpreting what it is that's going on, rather than knowing they dealing with something. Like
Right, yeah.
it's that difference between the interpretation of what's happening versus knowing the truth around what's happening.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because, that's what it's saying. That is why perception involves an exchange or translation, which knowledge doesn't need. Because see, when you know something, you don't need to have it translated to you.
Right.
Your thoughts, Harriet?
Well, the whole idea to me has been made clearer, and I think at this point um what I'm seeing here is that is why perception involves an exchange or translation which knowledge does not need, because when you know something, then you don't have to, because with perception, it's what you're dealing with there is a perspective based on your experience or understanding,
Right.
wherein knowledge is something that knowledge is almost like, I would say, parallel to truth, because when you know something, you know it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Wherein perception can change.
Yeah.
Knowledge does not.
There it is.
Yeah.
Perception is temporary, and
Mhm.
it changes and evolves as we grow.
Exactly.
Hope Bailey. Hope Bailey. Okay. Yeah, let's see. Number 3, the interpretive function of perception, a distorted form of creation, then permits you to interpret the body as yourself in an attempt to escape from the conflict you have induced. Interpretive function of perception. Yeah, okay, so when you interpretate perception, okay, great. Okay, go ahead. Go downstairs and see your mom. Yeah. Goodbye. Yeah, because there's too much conversation going. I gotta think. Yeah, the interpretive function of perception, and perception needs to be interpreted, because just like you said earlier, Harriet, perceptions change. They change instantaneously from one moment to the next moment. Like Richard's example of of a discussion or debate argument. If you're only perceiving from your point of view, then I'm seeing that person as arguing because I'm angry.
Right.
This person might not be arguing, but I'm thinking it's an argument, but it might not actually be to them. And from my perspective, like I was talking about the driving, because yes, I can't see at night, so I'm staying at a stop sign for like 20 minutes because there's other cars coming and all I can see is lights. I don't know which lane they're in. So I can only perceive the lights. I can't see I don't know where the vehicle is.
Right, you can't judge the distance, or whether you can safely.
Yeah.
Or whether you
so
can
I can
safely
only
pull
so I
into-
can only interpret what I know as safety, and it's
Right.
just to stay. So y'all behind me, y'all, I'm sorry, y'all got to get to work. Too bad. I don't work.
Oh,
And you're gonna be here till I feel safe to get across the street. You know.
right.
So okay, so and then the next not the next phrase is a distorted form of creation. So perception is a distorted form of creation. And I'm sure that we have mentioned that before in earlier um, definitions about perception, but this kind of strikes me as fascinating right here where I am right now, because when you think of perception as a distorted form of creation, and yeah, it is, because creation is all valid, but perception is, it has to be distorted because it's based on my interpretation or my judgment of it,
Right.
of whatever
It's
the circumstance is.
right. The way I've experienced this recently is um I was in a text exchange back and forth with somebody,
Mm.
and I remembered at one point in time being confused because I didn't know if we were still arguing or not. Right. So my perception was based off of a variety of emotions. Like at one point in time, the perception was that we was arguing, and then the next point in time we was good. And it's temporary, right?
Yeah.
And then I went on a 10-day vacation with her, and since I've come back, I know things now that I didn't know before. And so now I have that knowledge of knowing that when I read the text message, this is what it is. It's not a, I'm not in an argument.
Right.
Right. So sometimes that's I think that's an interesting example of how that perception and knowing, comes into play just in sort of how we communicate with each other.
Yeah.
And also maybe the choice of words used by either one or the other of you was misunderstood. And having that time together, spending that time together, you realize, okay, I didn't understand what you said in that way. Now I understand. And that could go from one to the other, if you understand what I'm trying to say.
Right.
Well, I mean, and that makes sense because perception is so temporary. It's not permanent. So or it's not supposed to be. Let's put it like that. So so that we can just know where we are at this. We're perceiving where we are at this moment, then we are aware that there's another moment that's coming along. But I think that it's interesting that it is a distorted form of creation, because creation, perception was created by creation. It's an aspect of creation, but to see that it is distorted, and I guess that, in where I am right now, I guess it's distorted in like the way that a prism is. When you look at a prism, it's clear until it reaches the light, and then it becomes distorted in all of the many facets of colors. Because the colors are the things that are the distortion of the prism.
Right.
Which is really beautiful. So, when we look at it, we don't always need to be looking at distortion in a negative light, but seeing it as what it is, distorted from the creation of the thing. See, then permits you to interpret the body as yourself in an attempt to escape from the conflict you have induced. And well,
you know, what?
yeah, I know that. I mean, that makes a lot of sense to me because if we are seeing ourselves as in our own perception, if we're, and usually that's what how we have interpreted ourselves as ourselves.
Mhm.
Now I have to escape that thing that I thought about me, and now that brings conflict as I am becoming more and more aligned with knowledge.
Right.
Is that what that's saying?
Yeah. That's what I got.
Then permits you to interpret the body as yourself in an attempt to escape from the conflict you have induced.
Mhm. Mhm.
Right. So the conflict between the perceiving and the knowing puts us into a position because we identify ourselves with our body, which that was the first thing that I learned when I first came to these sessions, because what we were talking about at the time was how people think in terms of how people have to rely on medicine for healing rather than knowing that that's not what's really going on, right? Like when you identify with the body, that's how you operate. So that's what this is saying. This is the one that I really like because it makes the distinction between how you perceive yourself, which is a distortion. That's us identifying with the body rather than identifying with the soul, the consciousness, the inner being.
Right.
And because that is a tension, that's why we always have conflict.
Yeah.
Between who we really are and who we think we are.
Yeah. 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 And then we have to escape from that conflict.
Right.
And I like that word escape because we were trapped in a consciousness of perception.
Right.
What that brings to my mind is two people looking at what I guess we can call modern art, and you see displayed in a museum or a gallery or something, this frame with all these splashes of color, and one person looks at it and questions, well, what the heck is that? And someone else is looking at it and it sees all of these beautiful colors, and their imagination can sometimes take them into seeing different forms and shapes, and they actually see an object that they can name. What I see is could be a pen, could be a chair, could be a table, could be anything, but they actually see an object, wherein the other person doesn't see anything but just some colors thrown up on a canvas.
Right.
You okay? Cut the light on. Yeah. Let's see. Number 4.
Spirit, which knows, could not be reconciled with this loss of power because it is incapable of darkness. And so for me, this is coming off of this conflict that we've talked about, and that spirit knows about this conflict, can't be reconciled with this whole idea of power. Like spirit doesn't come back to us. It sits still and it calls us to come to the light out of the darkness.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mhm.
it is so it's incumbent upon us to, one, recognize who we truly are, and when you do that, then you know that you don't have to be in the darkness. You don't have to give up your power. You can go towards just being spirit.
Spirit, spirit,
I don't know. That doesn't feel right.
precisely.
Being, I don't know if it's being. I won't say being spirit. I'll just say being who you truly are.
Yeah. And spirit is not this body. It's like you said, who you are. And it doesn't know darkness, and it knows power. Is basically what that, to me, is what that sentence is saying.
Mm,
It
I like
knows,
that.
it knows light, and it knows power.
I like that.
One of, I don't know, Penny's not, I don't know if she's with us or she's attending to her grandkids. You want to move on to the next sentence?
Sure.
Are you there?
This makes spirit almost inaccessible to the mind and entirely inaccessible to the body, which for me just continues off of the previous line.
Mm-hmm.
When you're identifying yourself with the body, two things happens. It makes spirit inaccessible to your mind because your mind is focused on
The
you being the body.
Mm-hmm.
And two, it makes spirit inaccessible to your body because you're so focused, like you're so moved away from spirit that you're truly in in the darkness.
Right. Oh, wow. Yes.
Okay, can you say that again? I missed it. And I missed the whole sentence. I missed whole sentence 4.
Okay.
So go ahead, Carrie.
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay. So let me back up to 4. So with 4 and 5, it seems that 4 is coming off of this conflict that we are just talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And spirit can't be reconciled with this us identifying in our body. So when we identify ourselves as our body, we give up our power, we situate ourselves in darkness, and we're further removed from spirit.
Right.
And so then in 5, it comes back to say that when you do that, it makes spirit inaccessible to your mind because your mind doesn't identify with spirit, it identifies with the body.
Right.
And in that state, it makes spirit completely inaccessible to your body because you don't even understand the spiritual the spiritual being that you really are.
Yeah, this makes spirit almost inaccessible to the mind and entirely inaccessible to the body. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Because like I said, most of the time when the way I was raised, spirit was not me. Spirit was,
something out
God,
there.
Jesus, and the saints. I had a soul that, once I died, it came out of my body like Casper the ghost, but it wasn't anything that was attached to me either. So this is letting me know that this makes spirit almost inaccessible to the mind because I couldn't conceive it with my mind. I had no conception of spirit, and so if I had no conception of it in my mind, I absolutely had no conception of it in my body.
Right.
As a matter of fact, it didn't have anything to do with my body. It just, my once my body died, then my spirit, I guess, I don't know, was born or something. I just, it was not a part of who I am. So I never had a concept of that. So, and that in itself is scary. When I think that's the next line is that when you're thinking about when people are saying, okay, the spirits are with you, or, there are evil spirits around, or they're great, good spirits around, then you're thinking of something that is outside of you and your body, that can affect your body somehow in ways that you can't fathom. Okay, it's not in a box. So don't go in none of the boxes under there. Just look for your stockings. Okay? So don't go through none of the boxes. Yep, put the box back. Thank you. Oh, all I gotta do is spirits.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Now, see, this is working. This makes spirit almost inaccessible to the mind and entirely inaccessible to the body. Therefore, spirit is perceived as a threat because light abolishes darkness merely by showing you it is not there.
And the it in that case is the darkness.
Did you find your stockings?
Yep.
But don't forget to go look for your stockings.
And and looking at that, spirit is perceived as a threat because light abolishes darkness merely by showing you it is not there. To me, I'm not exactly sure how to interpret that, because spirit is perceived as a threat because light abolishes darkness by merely showing you it is not there. And spirit abolishes the darkness. Light abolishes the darkness. So why would, well, depending on where you're at, it can be perceived as a threat. Yes. Okay. Makes sense now.
There you go. I heard you coming to it.
Yeah, makes sense now.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with what you said, how you broke that down.
Yeah, because therefore spirit is perceived as a threat because our minds are going to be threatened. Give me that. No, yeah, the ticket. Thank you. Our minds are going to be threatened by anything that it does not know. And
oh, yes.
And if we think that we are that there is a threat there, we're going to pay more attention to the threat than we would be to the abolishment of the threat. So therefore, spirit is perceived as a threat because light abolishes darkness. And we're so used to darkness. We're so used to being, not in the dark. We don't know this, or we're in the dark about that, or we are living in some form of nonsense, gibberish, that is also dark. So
why would you be so why would you feel threatened, or why would you be afraid of the light? Because personally, I never have liked, you said you can't see in the dark now. I'm there as well. But I never liked driving at night. I wanted to be, I to drive in the daytime because that way I can see all around me. I know what's around me. At night, my vision is limited to the area that when you're behind the wheel of a car, that is, my perception is only sees, or from my perception, I only see what is in the realm, or in the realm, whatever, of where that light shines. I might be able to decipher something in the along the fringes, along the edges of the darkness, but I can't tell exactly what it is. So why would I be afraid of the light?
Because, well, I think that most people are afraid of the light, simply because the light is filled up with truth. Most people don't want to know the truth about things. I mean, whole systems are designed so that you don't know the truth about a thing.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
Systems, actually prefer that you be in the dark about something. So,
And that's why we have so many conflicts.
exactly, exactly.
In
And,
society, yeah.
and so when we are living in spirit, which is light,
Mhm.
you can be, if you are not used to living in spirit, you are used to living in darkness, you are going to be afraid of the spirit. Just like I said, the Halloween, we just got finished with Halloween. All of these Halloween movies that came out, and all of them were about, malevolent spirits.
Right. Yeah.
So, we are taught either through entertainment or through sometimes through our spiritual education or our religious education, to be afraid of spirit, because you don't know what the spirits are. You don't know what's going to happen with that. So yeah, very seldom are we taught to see spirit overall as light. Very
Mhm.
seldom. For me, from my understanding, I had never been taught that. I'm
Oh,
I'm
it's
you
the
know, I'm
same,
learning it.
the same
Yeah,
here. The same here. Yeah.
yeah. So, I think that because spirit is filled up with knowledge, spirit is filled up with light, we have been taught, as especially in whatever society that you live in, that we have been taught to be afraid of truth.
And you know what? It just brings us back to the title of this section, error
Mhm.
and
And the
ego.
ego. Mhm.
Yeah. Because
Mhm.
as long as the ego is dominant, that ego wants to keep, okay, I know, but I don't want you to know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if you know, then you know as much as I do, and then we are equals. And
Or you can
you know,
see my darkness,
yeah,
and I don't want you to see my darkness.
exactly. Yeah.
And
Mhm.
if and when we live by light, we understand that light abolishes darkness merely by showing you that it's not there, because
Mhm.
nothing is in darkness anyway. It's
We
only dark because
just
we can't see it right now.
or refuse to see it.
Yeah, it's the light is not on to see it, but everything is already in its place.
Mhm. Mhm.
A different, or maybe an additional thought that I would say is, it's comparable to people maybe 15, 20 years ago who were living in downtown Newport News that I knew. And, very, the low income spots down there.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
It wasn't that they were opposed to getting out of the area, but it was, this is where we're supposed to be. And anything outside of that, they were resistant to.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think sometimes it's not even, necessarily malicious or somebody trying to keep truth away or anything of that nature. But oftentimes we as individuals live in our truth and believe that that is the only truth.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And so anything else that anyone else says, that's not of Jesus, so I don't believe it.
Yeah.
Or that's not the Jesus that I was told about.
Right. Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
And so some of this stuff is just kind of ingrained and part of that sort of trauma. And you know, there's people now who are in darkness because of their traumas, who don't realize that there is a way out.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
Mhm. Mhm. And some people, you know, and when we choose to live in the light, and it really is it really is a choice, and it usually comes from some form of conflict. You know, it's very conflicted to say, okay, this is what light is for me now, and I'm here in this light, and I'm going to stay right here because this is light for me. And it might be difficult to explain that to someone else because they are in their what they consider as their light,
Right.
and they don't want to have any parts of your light. They say, oh no, your light is darkness.
Right. Which
You
is why I
know?
always tell people that the best way to live is not to teach people by telling them stuff when they're
Show
not
'em.
really willing to hear it, but just to
Mhm.
show. So then,
Mhm.
because there's a lot of
Yeah.
people that don't know what love is,
Yeah.
right? And so,
Yeah.
and you know, many people don't realize what love is until they get into their 30s, 40s, 50s.
Yeah. 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 Or never have that experience of true love.
Right. And that
Mhm.
in and of itself is a classic example of, if you've never experienced true love, or what unconditional love can really be like, then
Mhm.
the idea of unconditional love will always be a threat,
Yeah.
because you think that it doesn't exist, or you think that it doesn't exist for you, or you know, whatever the case may be.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. And darkness is so comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's very comfortable. You know, just like I told my granddaughter a few minutes ago, you know, I was sitting in the dark, and I said, well, she was looking for her thing, and I said, well, turn the light on. But I was really, really comfortable in the dark. The dark is soothing, and you know, the light can be jarring, and the light makes you have to do something, you know. Where the dark, I don't have to do anything in the dark. I can sit in the dark and in my one little spot. I don't have to move ever. So when you're thinking about our spirit as light, it can we can become conflicted because now we have to move in the light. We have to operate in the light. The light gives us the energy to it pulls us out of that comfort zone.
Right.
Okay.
So,
No,
so
go
are
ahead.
you
No.
saying, no, I was gonna say, so are you saying that to be in the darkness is the comfort zone?
For many, yeah.
Yeah, for many, yeah.
Okay.
For many people, I mean, I mean, and I'm me personally, I'm trying to be careful in how much I define anybody's light or darkness,
Right,
Okay.
yeah.
right? But it's also grounding everything around what we understand is the truth, not a truth, the truth,
Right,
True.
yeah.
Okay.
right? And so when I surround things by that, then I understand that what we believe about ourselves will, one, determine whether we see ourselves as being in the light or in the darkness as it relates to the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And because most people don't understand that core truth,
Yeah.
then they may find themselves very comfortable in the darkness, thinking that that's the light.
Yeah.
That's as far as we can go.
But can't that darkness be the light sometimes? Because I know, and the reason I'm asking this or looking at it in this way is I'm thinking about when I want to shut out everything and just deal with spirit or that higher consciousness, I either will close my eyes, shutting out all light, so physical light that is,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, I'm letting in that light of spirit.
So you're still coming out of darkness.
Hmm.
Because you're just closing the things that you're closing your eyes, the things that causes perception.
Right.
But you're going within to
Right.
to be a part of the light.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't well, and darkness is, we're darkness. First of all, darkness is not a bad thing. Darkness
Right.
can be good. I mean, it if you're very, very sleepy, being in the dark is great.
Yeah.
But if you are, depressed and can't wake up because
That's a different kind
you
of
choose to
darkness.
stay in the darkness, then that is a different type of your attachment to the darkness.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think that, there are variations like in anything.
Mm-hmm.
There's, levels of darkness and levels of light. Some
Mm-hmm.
things you just don't know yet. You just in the dark about it because you just don't know it yet.
Don't know it. Yeah.
Yeah, but you're willing, you're willing to be enlightened
Enlightened.
all the time. Yeah,
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
yeah. And I think that this is what this is saying here is that light abolishes darkness by showing you that it's not there, because nothing is really truly in the dark. We know, our spirits know it all
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
time. It's
Mm-hmm.
just that we might, we're
But
not able to
our
perceive it.
conscious mind, yeah, our conscious mind is not aware of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, we might not be able to perceive it at this moment. And so we're living in perception, but this is saying that therefore spirit is perceived as a threat, because now that you know, and sometimes somebody has told you something and that it's right, but you're still not choosing it. You want to stay dedicated to your perception.
Right. Yeah. And sometimes that perception that you might have is not always good for you.
Right. And then, and we outgrow things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think this is what number 7 is, sentence 7 is saying, it truth will always overcome error in this way.
Mm-hmm.
Because truth is always going to shine a light on it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Just because you don't want to admit the truth, you know the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And truth will always overcome error.
Right.
Always. Always. Yeah.
I'll never forget when COVID was really big, and I was listening on television where this nurse, she had been stuck in the hospital. She had been up for like 72 hours, which I think is, miraculous. And that's a real hero right there. But she said this one of her patients was dying from COVID. And he still said, right, his last words was that there was no such thing as COVID. So to be that entrenched in an ideology to the point where you're willing to die
Deny.
for it.
Yeah.
You're not willing to see the light is so how do you there is no way in the world that he did not know the truth. He knew the truth, he just didn't want to accept the truth. And truth will always overcome error in this way. Truth will always overcome error.
What's the old phrase? The truth will set you free.
The truth will set you free. Yeah.
So I'm trying to make that situation where this man denies the truth about an illness that he's dying of. Was he set free?
Yeah, I think death. I mean,
and that's what I'm thinking. Yeah,
physical death sets you free. Now I don't know about what happens afterward. Did he have to get right back on the wheel again? So I don't know how free he was, but but when you're willing to come out of error, and you're willing to admit, you're willing to become part of the truth, he could have survived. He could have said, well, damn, I really have COVID, and there's a way that I can get past COVID, because COVID really is just a bad flu, and I know how to get past the flu.
Right.
His mind could have begun to work for him so that his body could fight off the things that now, because your body gonna respond to however you want to respond to it, however you tell it to respond.
Exactly. And he was maybe he just wasn't willing to fight,
or maybe he was just interested in that lie. Some people just don't want to know the truth.
I just think
but you can't. How can you face your enemy if you don't admit who they are? You can't fight them. You can't fight something that you don't think is there. I'm not saying it's not there. But how can you arm yourself?
That's why he died from COVID.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm not gonna say that that's why he died. I mean, you know what I'm saying. But I think that as humans, when we get past this concept that we are only this body, and what someone tells this body, and this body only perceives, this is why the Course is so interesting, because the Course is saying that I don't have to rely only on perception. I can rely on spirit, and spirit is light, and spirit is health, and spirit is healing, and spirit is all of these things that is not darkness. But that's where that whole point of conflict comes in. Where are you with this, Richard?
I think we might want to be careful how much we, like, when we talk about the truth. I would say that's different than any truth around COVID, because I sometimes the COVID stuff, what we might call truth might be more of our perception.
Right. Yeah. Because all of this was, that was just an example that was just something that came to my mind.
Right. Yeah. No, I understand what you said, but so this gets to a deeper thing in that, for me, I'm thinking that there is something to be said about how, when we understand the truth, the absolute truth, that there is light, there's dark. And in all of that, the more that we move into the light, the more truth, the more we understand and live in that truth.
Mhm.
And the more that we live into that truth, we have more habits. You know, our beliefs and our habits and the way that we navigate life becomes normal, to the point that anything that's dark is like, it's like our intuition sets off and tells us this is not the way. Like, I think that's what I'm trying to get to, is that the more that we're in the light, the more that we're in alignment, and where our intuition is kicking in the light, and we are just more so in a state of knowing, in the habit of knowing, than we are perceiving.
Yeah.
And it makes everything easy.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that this is what this whole section is telling us, how, you know, how to determine what is error and how to determine what is ego, and how they go hand in hand together.
Right.
You know, and as we come out of that concept of conflict, of, you know, darkness and separation and perception and all of those things, you know, that we understand that, you know, they have a place, and we can put them in those compartments, use them when we need them, but that's not all that there is. There is the bigger picture, and the bigger picture is understanding that we are spirit. We are of spiritual beings that happen to live in these bodies on this third dimension. In this third dimension.
You know, I like to look back at the principles every now and then to find out. And this one kind of struck me. It's number 39. The miracle dissolves error because the Holy Spirit identifies error as false or unreal. No, wait a minute. Am I reading the right one? Yeah. This is the same as saying that by perceiving light, darkness automatically disappears.
Yeah, because once the light comes on, it's not dark anymore.
Exactly. And that's what we kind of, the message, what is it, number, what is that?
7.
7.
The truth will always come. The truth will always overcome error.
In this way.
Yeah.
I was actually looking back at the one before that. Thereafter, spirit is perceived as a threat because light abolishes darkness merely by showing you it is not there. So both, I mean, you know, that applies, I think, in both situations, to both of those.
And you said that was
number 39.
39.
Yeah.
Anybody want to read 8?
This cannot be an active process of correction because, as I have already emphasized, knowledge does not do anything.
It just is.
Yeah. We have to be the ones doing.
Yeah. Yeah, we have to be the ones that this cannot be an active process of correction. So, you know, truth can't get you out because truth doesn't do anything. Truth just simply is, the same way knowledge is. So we actually have to go through perception in order to get to truth.
Yes. Yeah, and I actually was just thinking that a few minutes ago, was you have to get through perception in order to get to true perception, which leads to knowing.
Yeah.
Which leads to what did you say, Richard?
Knowing.
Oh, knowing.
Yeah. And I've been I've been making that distinction in my language here recently, and I noticed it's been throwing people off because somebody said, "Do you believe X, Y, and Z?" I said, "No, I don't believe it. I know it."
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference? So I don't have to question that. That's the truth.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Your beliefs can change, but truth don't.
Right.
Exactly.
Truth is what
Exactly.
you accept. Your belief is what you buy into or choose to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So beliefs, perceptions,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
synonymous.
Yep.
Yeah, they're temporary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They're
Mm-hmm.
here for, and I think that because we have such limited language, and we rely heavily on the limitations of our language, so that we don't even investigate something further into, it's like a word.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I think that what we do, how we do it, yeah, we know what the word believe is, but we will just go and say, okay, Harriet, put this word up for us. We know that we know what the word is, but when you hear it again into that, in that space that we're talking about at that moment, it becomes clearer that this word is bigger than the only concept that I'm giving it.
Right.
It's bigger than the connotation of it, when I hear it again and I see how it fits into the context of where we are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Let's see, number 9. It can be perceived as an attacker, but it cannot attack. And that goes right back up to
Let's talking about knowledge.
Yeah.
Knowledge doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
It can be perceived as an attacker.
Right. It can be perceived that way, but the truth is that knowledge don't do anything. It's just
Knowledge
there.
doesn't do anything. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we just got through saying. Yeah.
Yeah, and it cannot. And I like that it says it cannot attack, because a lot of people try to attack you with their perception, and they're perceiving that thing as knowledge, as their knowledge.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It was not too long ago. Well, I'm gonna say, probably maybe about 6 or 8 months ago. I was in a room full of, and I got a high school education. I graduated from high school. I think I went to college for 3 weeks and partied the whole time, and came back home. But I was in the room and everybody had at least one PhD. So there was PhDs and all of these. So everybody had all of this knowledge that they were just throwing around, but everything was just so, it was, golly, nobody had like real life experience, and it was kind of sad that they use all of this language, and they use all of these words, and they use all of these concepts, but nobody understood how to make a good can of beans. Oh, you have to have a fresh product. No, you don't. No, you don't. You can make a whole lot of stuff out of a can of beans. If you haven't had the experience of being hungry, you can't tell all your degrees can't tell me how to make food taste good if you don't know.
Right.
And but it was how they were so comfortable in the things that they knew and in their degrees, that they weren't willing to hear anything that came from anybody else outside of what your degree is. Well, what do you have a degree in? I don't have a degree in anything.
They had book knowledge, but not life knowledge. I
Yeah,
guess is the best way to put it.
but you know, when you're depending on that as knowledge, but that's still very limited. You don't have, you don't have a lot of experience to go along with what you say that you know. So you don't
But
know
that-
too much. You really don't know anything.
Exactly, because that book now, that if you are solely basing everything that you say and do and understand based on book knowledge, that is still not knowledge, because you are just taking the words of somebody else who may have gone through something or read something, just like you're reading what they're saying. They read something that somebody else said. They did not experience it.
Mm-hmm. And so and I'm seeing this, and I just brought that up just because that was just my experience. It said it can be perceived as an attacker, but it cannot attack. So like I was saying, they shifted away from me because I didn't have these degrees. But when we came on to a part of the discussion where they had no knowledge of, they didn't have knowledge, they didn't have experience, they were lost in the sauce. But I was the one who knew stuff. Now I have the knowledge. So now they're going to, now they had to rustle back over and, and try to get me to be a part of who they were. And I was, and the thing is that I didn't see any, I never saw a gap. I never saw any form of segregation. But that's when, but so they used their knowledge to attack, as opposed to bringing things together under one like umbrella. Mm-hmm. So knowledge can be perceived as an attacker, but it really cannot attack, because you don't, if you're using your if you're really using knowledge is truth. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that made any sense, or whether I was just rambling, so forgive me, y'all. Anybody else on that? What is that, number 9?
Yeah, no, that one's 9. Yeah, 9 is good, I think. Yeah, I don't have anything. I think we said it.
Yeah.
Okay, what about number 10?
What you perceive as its attack is your own vague recognition that knowledge can always be remembered, never having been destroyed. Again, I mean, it just comes, I mean, it just goes back to what we said 2 verses ago. Knowledge doesn't do anything. Mm-hmm. It's your perception that's doing it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you can't destroy it. The only thing you can do is remember it, because it's there. It's just there.
Yeah. Yeah. And let's see, what you perceive as its attack is your own vague recognition that knowledge can always be remembered, never having been destroyed. So when it says your vague recognition, when you perceive as its attack is your own vague recognition that knowledge can always be remembered. So that's saying that you think that you can remember knowledge.
Yeah, so knowledge is like truth. It's like the way I've grown to understand it is that our journey right now is returning to remembering what we came to this existence knowing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so it's the idea that knowing or this knowledge isn't something that we create in the same way that it can't be destroyed. It's always something that we just remember.
Yeah. Yeah. And as you perceive what you perceive as its attack is your own vague recognition that knowledge can always be remembered. Oh, okay. Yeah, never having been destroyed. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Because knowledge is it's because it's always there. And it always comes back to us. So we will all so it's not anything that we have to like study for,
Right.
or that we have to make up or create. It's always there.
Right.
So that's just the thing, y'all. How do we get to that point as a collective? Is it by being um having ownership, and ownership is the best word that I can think of right now. Is it by having ownership of what we know of each of what we know, and trusting others what they know? How do we get to this point as a collective?
Say it again.
How do we get to this point? How do we as a collective get to this point where we accept and understand light and truth? How do we get to this point where we are no longer under the spell of perception?
Well, how we do it, I think what we're doing right now is how we do it. It's one of the ways that we do it.
Mm-hmm.
Where the three of us are coming into congregation to explore this lesson. It's recorded, so other people will have access to it to be able to see it, which may be a catalyst for their own thoughts. I think it's not just in what we do in these lessons, but what we do outside of these lessons, how it informs how we live our life. What is love? What does it look like to move through the world with grace and love and continue to move further in the light? Because each one of us contributes to the collective consciousness. So as we move into the light, there are others who are watching us, whether we know it or not, that are then
they'll follow us.
They're following. Every little thing that we do is a catalyst towards somebody else getting closer to the truth.
And that raises our vibration, raises our frequencies, and those vibrations and frequencies
will resonate with others.
Pervade. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Curiosity.
And I have, and we've said it, all of us at some point in time during this discussion have kind of seen knowledge and truth as being the same. And my curiosity forced me to look for the synonyms for knowledge. And I find it interesting that truth is not among those synonyms when I Googled it. Let me see, more similar and opposite words. Let me see if I see it. All of the words that are being used as synonyms or that are synonymous with knowledge, that the word truth is not among them, but all of the words do suggest truth as being, I just find that interesting.
Very interesting. Well, it's 6:26, y'all.
Oh, wow.
Time flies, I tell you. And that's the truth.
Yes, it does.
So let's do our roundtable real quick. Anybody want to go first? What did we learn from today's session, and how can you apply it to your life? Okay, well,
Well,
I'll go first. One of the things that I got from tonight's session is because when I first came into it, none of the words made sense. All of the words were just words, but none of them made any sense. Um, and as we, so for me, going through this, sentence by sentence, word by word, sometimes even, is so important, because now I have always all my life been told something, and then I had to, throw something in to fit in or fill in what I have been told. But now understanding from each perspective what it means to me now in this space and in this time, so that I can understand it better, so that I can live it better. So now I am the light. It's okay for me to say to people, and I say it all the time, I really do. I tell people all the time, but everybody say, "Oh, I'm not perfect." Well, I'm perfect. you know Only Jesus was perfect. Well, I'm Jesus then. That can ruffle a feather. That can start a conversation. I'm gonna tell you the truth. But now that I understand that these things are acceptable for me to know, to feel, to be, to do, and I am proud of myself that I allow myself to be here. And I have stopped being in this consciousness of being, this human, or only this, or just accepting forms of limitation. I'm not believing that anymore. I don't tell my children that. I don't tell my grandchildren that. I am allowing myself to be this spirit, to be this light. So, yeah, so that's it for me. Anybody else?
well, for me, I think, how do I phrase it? First of all, I learned that darkness is not always a bad thing, because and I'll go back to what I said earlier about shutting my eyes and shutting out everything so that I can go within. And okay, shutting my eyes, I don't see the light, and from one perspective, it is a form of darkness, but it is also, it just allows me to go within and see the light within me. And that's the lesson that I learned from tonight. And moving forward, I will continue to use that tactic of shutting out so that I can go within and become more enlightened. When something's bothering me, when I have a question on something, it is that shutting out of the light that I see with my eyes, and allowing the light of my inner being to shine forth.
Thank you. How about you, Richard?
I'm particularly drawn to this idea of, thinking about light and darkness, and the fact that darkness doesn't, darkness isn't really there, right? Like, to some extent, it's really not there when you're in the light. It only shows up when we're away from it. And we have every bit of control in that. We also have control in how we move into those, but we also have control in how we navigate ourselves in those spaces.
Mhm.
And so I'm just continuing to be intrigued by just this idea of how to balance, how to live in the light and the dark, how to navigate those spaces, and to kind of hear today that the darkness really doesn't exist. That just really opens up a lot of awareness of how much control we have.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that in and of itself says can tell us for ourselves how much more work we need to do or not,
Mhm.
by how well we navigate the darkness, or how
Mhm.
well we understand that the darkness isn't really there
Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
when we're in the light. So yeah.
Oh, wow. Great job, everybody. This is where, one of the things that, we're just, we're just on chapter 3. And I know I'm saying just, but I'm using air quotes that y'all can't see. But I'm using it because we're just on chapter 3. And look at how advanced this spiritual concept is becoming. It's so wonderful to be able to allow ourselves to have this type of freedom to make these, to have this discussion, to make changes, to flounder a little bit, and to scale the heights. I just really love this concept of who we are and where we are right now in the Course in Miracles. And I thank y'all for coming in and being a part of it and seeing and helping me through. Like I said, I'm so glad that I got people along with me that on my mystical magical ride. So
Hey, it's fun.
tomorrow is Thursday, and we're going to be doing our I am session from 11 to 11:30. And in the evening, we will be reading continuing our reading of Flight from 7 to 8:30. On Saturday, we're on the Gospel of Thomas. And on Sunday, we're that's the first Sunday, right? Sunday is the first Sunday in December.
Yes.
Yeah. So the first Sunday in December, we have our writers group. So come here, come prepared to talk about something in writing or something about writing, or if you want to talk about your journal or anything, it doesn't really matter. And that's pretty much it. Let's see. The next Saturday, the second Saturday, which is the 9th, right?
Yes.
Yeah. We will be starting our holistic healing sessions. So if anybody wants to, we're going to be starting off with castor oil, talking about how to use castor oil. And I think we're going to start off with something simple like how to make cold and hot compresses. That's something very simple and something that we can use. But castor oil can be taken externally or internally. So we're going to be talking about everything with castor oil, and we're going to include I don't know, I don't want to give too much away, but so if you can go out and get yourself some castor oil, just go out and get castor oil so that we can be so that you can follow along with what we do with castor oil. So if anybody wants to do anything in December, this is kind of touch and go month. We got Christmas that's coming up, so we'll figure out something to do for Christmas. I don't know what day is Christmas on. Oh, Christmas is on a Monday this year. Oh yeah, so as a matter of fact, on the 23rd, I'm celebrating my Christmas on the 23rd, so we won't meet on the 23rd.
Okay.
Yeah, just to let y'all know, I'm gonna celebrate my Christmas on the 23rd with my family, and I let everybody stay at home, do their own thing for Christmas in their own home. So
So does that mean the 23rd and the 24th, we won't be having any sessions?
Well, I don't know about the 24th. We can put
Okay.
24th because that's the Sunday. So,
Yeah.
you know, it doesn't matter to me.
Ooh, I'm sorry. I've got to go. My grandson is calling me.
All right, then,
Okay.
darling.
All right, take care.
All right, bye.
Love you.
Love you too.
Love you too, bye. So yeah, the 24th, I'm not doing anything on the 24th.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just the 23rd.
Okay.
So, you know, we can play that one by ear.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So that's it for me. Anything for you? And you want to conclude with anything?
Just our prayer and meditation.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay. If we're ready,
Mhm.
let us close our eyes, surround ourselves with the white light of love and protection. And as we do that, we inhale healing breath, cleansing our bodies, our minds, and our spirits to a state of wholeness and health and perfection. So inhale. And as we exhale, we let go of all of the imperfections and dis-eases that we might feel within our bodies, within our minds. And as we exhale, remember we are letting go not only of diseases and ill health, but we're also exhaling carbon dioxide, which helps the plants to thrive, the plants, the trees, the grass, the flowers, nature's beauty. And they in turn, as they take in the carbon dioxide that we let go of, they're letting go of the oxygen that we need in order to survive. And as we inhale, we want to be grateful for this time that we've had together, this time that we've spent learning and gaining knowledge and an understanding of this Course in Miracles. We're letting go of all fears and taking in all of the love that the universe has to give us. And with that, I say, and so it is.
And so it is. Thank you so much, Harriet.
You're quite welcome.
All right, everybody. Love
Thank you.
you.
Love you all.
Bye.
Bye now.